While it's common for foreign books to get made into movies, it's a rare event in the Philippines. Ria Limhap and Raya Martin did just that when they took what is billed as the first local crime novel, Smaller and Smaller Circles, to the big screen. The movie isn't out yet, but Ria and Raya, producer and director, have come to Rappler to talk about why they decided to work from a book and how that is different from how movies are usually made here. Movies can't be 100% faithful to books. Without spoilers, we'll ask them why they made the changes they made, as well as other decisions and challenges they met, including when and where to find a debut film that was completed actually by early this year. Ria, Raya, thank you very much for coming to Rappler. Why did you decide to do a movie based on a book?
Well, I love to read and I love adaptations, and one fine day I was at the Raffles Hotel for the Literary Fest, and I saw a copy of...
The Literary Festival here?
Yes. I saw a copy of Smaller and Smaller Circles with the name F.H. Batacan on the cover, and it sounded like a Filipino author. I picked it up and I read the back, and the synopsis talked about a serial killer in Payatas with 2 Jesuit detectives. So I bought the book, I read it cover to cover, and I loved it. And I thought this would make a great film.
You studied in the Ateneo. The fact that they were Jesuits, did that have a special appeal to you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Why did you decide to get into the project?
It's funny kasi parang it all just fell into place. The first time that I read the book was probably 12 years ago. A friend from UP...
Before Ria read it, actually.
Yes, yeah. But this was the novella.
Right.
So a friend of mine in UP lent it to me, and then I had it in when I went to New York for a festival. So just went to a cafe one day and just read it, and then just stuck to me, like how cinematic it is. Like the first time that you read the book, I think a lot of people pointed out that it's very cinematic. So for a filmmaker, reading that kind of material, it strikes you as it's very inspirational, you know. And then Ria was talking about it recently.
Yeah.
Or just...
The thing is, there are 2 versions of Smaller and Smaller Circles.
There was the novella.
The novella, which was published more than a decade
90s,
ago.
Yeah. And that's what won the awards.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Much shorter, published by UP Press.
Yeah. It's a simple story of the 2 priests investigating the case.
Yeah. And then I believe around maybe 2013 or 2014, Soho Press, which is a US publisher that specializes in international crime fiction, picked it up and decided to expand it into a novel. So he had read the novella and I had read the novel.
So when you called him, that's how it happened, right?
Yeah, no, I mean...
He knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, he knew for sure. And in fact, he said, oh yeah, I've read it. He said, but I read the novella.
We started talking about the book, and then with another friend of ours, Moira, who also co-wrote the script with Ria, we started talking about the story in the book, and then they were asking around like who would be the best to direct this. And like after a while, like I was throwing out names, no? I was like, oh, you can do this and that, and then later on I realized that I really wanted to direct this material.
Were you hurt? Were you hurt that they didn't think of you first?
No,
no, we were just, speculating at best.
It's funny because I sent both of them a long Facebook message, like basically applying for the job, saying that, when I was young, I wanted to be a priest, and then like I was really into this genre of like horror, thriller, crime.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting for me to do something that's of the genre but also set in the Philippines, which is it's really quite rare.
You said it's very cinematic. I assume that means it's very descriptive. Does that constrain you or help you?
A good material usually like helps you expand your imagination, and this is one of those materials. So for the beauty of the book is that you can imagine certain worlds. For example, like you can really smell the QC-ness of it, the Quezon City-ness of it, where the payatas and Ateneo, for example. But you know, it's how powerful Itchy's words are in the book. But also at the same time, you kind of like insert yourself in this world. So you kind of like walk around, meet the characters, and like try to actually be in this world.
Well, there's a fair amount of action in the movie. A lot of it is talking. And let's look at a scene where Noni Buencamino and Sid Lucero, the two priests, are probably for the first time really discussing the case that's before them. What's happening in this scene?
So this is really when we establish that there is a case that the NBI needs help with. Noni Buencamino plays Father Gus Science, who is a forensic anthropologist. So he gets a call and they tell him, "Look, Father, we need your help." So that's the scene.
Okay, let's look at that scene.
Let me guess, transferred again.
Lilipat siya, pero executive director pa rin siya ng kandungan.
Oh, and you're surprised. It's not like we can change the cardinal's mind. Besides, to him, the matter's closed.
It's not closed and never will be. Not unless Monsignor Ramirez would be made to answer for what he's done.
Because you've been doing this, what? You've been chasing him through the system for about, what, 10 years? The cardinal just moves him around. Malakas si Ramirez kasi malalakas yung mga kaibigan niya. As yung kids pa, di naman sila magsasalita, takot na takot sila eh. Besides, they know na wala silang laban.
And why is that? What makes them that way? What makes them helpless? Wala silang laban? Can you hear yourself? Wala silang laban, kaya kalimutan na lang natin sila. Wala silang laban dahil inabandona natin sila.
Hindi ako kalaban dito, Gus.
I know, I'm sorry.
What is it like working with these two actors? How did you pick them?
We were playing a round of fantasy casting, you know.
Yeah, one of the funnest things of doing a movie is casting, because you create a world, and it's not just having artistas or like it's kind of like throwing a party, for example. You kind of choose
the guests
to
your party.
You just know certain personalities would like have friction, but it's good like to have that sort of friction, that right amount of like I don't know, like interesting tension, interesting moments. But at the same time, you have to have chemistry. So
Father Gus is the first person we were thinking of. I mean, the first character we were thinking of casting, and I think immediately Noni Buencamino's name came up.
Why?
He's great. He's one of the best actors of his generation. I think he comes from a theater background, but he gets a lot of work in television, in films. He does theater, so he's very well-rounded. And Raya had also worked with him on a film called How to Disappear Completely, which is great.
So he plays Gus Science, and Sid Lucero plays
Father Jerome Lucero.
Did it help that they had the same family name? Was that a factor?
Yeah, actually.
Joke about it on set. No?
You had worked with Sid too, right?
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
So
Had they worked together before?
Yes, many times. Yeah, many times. I had worked with Noni. I had never worked with Sid, but obviously I'm a huge fan. And then Sid had just done a film called Apocalypse Child, a wonderful film where he plays a surfer, you know, and he's great. Obviously, he has the genes, and also what we really liked about Sid is that description-wise in the book, it matched. It actually matched. Noni and Father Gus, not so much. We had to stretch our imagination a bit because he's like, you know, like a 6 foot tall guy with like a shock of white hair, like looks like a rock star is how he's described. I mean, Noni's many things, but he does not look like a rock star. So we handpicked them.
Let's talk about some technical stuff. How does one get the license to adapt
the rights
to adapt a book into film?
Well, it's a lot of work.
Wala ka pa nun?
Hindi, nandun na siya.
Okay.
Yeah. Raya and I went to New York in November of 2015. And fortunately, we were able to get a meeting with the publisher of the book, Soho Press. So we went and we introduced ourselves, and I think a face-to-face meeting really was the best way to let them know that we were very serious about making the film. So we talked to them and they said, make a proposal, which I did. And then we made the proposal, we haggled over the details of the contract for a few months. We got the price that we wanted. I had a lot of good advice as well on how to do it. It's the first time I've ever acquired the rights for a book.
You're probably one of the few people who's acquired, one of the few Filipino producers who's acquired rights to any book, possibly.
Yeah, but I think, I can't mention them now, but I do know that there's at least one adaptation coming up very soon, and like a serious adaptation.
F.H. Batacan, known to everyone as Itchy, did she have a say in this process?
Well, since the beginning, no, we've really made it a point for her to be a creative consultant in the project. But Itchy's an artist, and she knows how to collaborate with other artists. So I think it was it's not like she would dictate how she wanted certain scenes to be, or she's very open.
She's great.
Shared how we had like a one time when we talked to Itchy about how she sees the movie, and so we talked about like how she wanted for it to smell of Manila. I think that was a very particular thing for her. Yeah. Like when she would read her story, that the smell would come up.
Did it help, or was it a hindrance, the fact that Itchy now works in Singapore and is therefore not here?
Well, even if she's abroad.
Otherwise, she'd be here with us as well.
I know. I wish.
I think she doesn't wish.
It just so happens that our co-writer and co-producer Moira Lang knows Itchy from way back. And in fact, when the novella came out, she already told Itchy, Itchy, I'd love to make that into a film one day.
It's almost 20 years ago now.
Yeah, more or less. And because Moira and Itchy, have, a friendship, they were in touch. And so while we were writing the screenplay, Itchy was actually there, giving us tidbits, feeding us really interesting things about the book and the characters along the way. You remember she even gave us a playlist of Father Gus.
Right, yeah.
Because Father Gus loves music, and there was French rock, and there was classical.
And then you'd have references in the book.
And she gave us, birthdays. She gave us birthdays of characters. She gave us middle initials. Right. Wonderful input from her. And at the same time, she never, not once did she want creative control. Because she said, it's in your hands, and thank God she trusted us.
She said somewhere in another interview that she knows it's a waste of time to hope a movie is like a book, is like the book it's based on. But she also said that she hopes that this movie captures the spirit of the book, which in her mind is a commentary on the country's political and social problems. She's hoping that wasn't diluted. Do you think she was happy with the product?
You know what's interesting about the movie coming out later this year is that we never expected for this kind of scenario, really the story to be happening around us, and so that's really surprising. I think we just wanted to tell this story, and this story is set in the 90s,
Yeah.
and for it to be still happening. And she wrote it in the 90s, so for it to still be
What
happening
story is
today,
happening around us?
Dead children turning up.
Being killed. So I think there's how would you say it? There's a conversation that's that the movie hopefully brings out the way that it's always been a conversation when she released the novella and then when she released the book 2 years ago.
There's a scene where Noni Buencamino goes over to the NBI to discuss this. What's happening in that scene?
It's the first time that we see Father Gus discuss the case to the police as an official case. So he goes to meet people in the NBI, in the bureau.
And we'll see that scene in a bit, but what's going on there and how does that relate to being a commentary on the country?
They discuss, in the scene, they discuss patterns of how they see the dead children, you know, like certain ways that they're killed and how there's a pattern to how they're being left out there and how there could be a serial killer on the loose.
Dapat yata sinama natin si Director Mapa sa meeting na to.
Sir, wala si Director Mapa. Sabi ng sekretary niya kanina, nag-golf siya sa Wakwak.
Natural, di nyo sinabihan eh.
There's not much in this report, sir.
Tama ka, Father. We don't have much there.
Maybe we should consider revisiting the site of the second boy.
Jake, get on it.
Yes, sir.
This doesn't seem to be the work of someone drunk or under the influence. The killer seems to be in full control here. The injuries on the victims, they're too similar.
Pwede, isang suspect. Similar staging, similar methods of disposal.
Also, what if there are more victims? Baka hindi pa nakikita.
Father Science, you've been watching too many Hollywood movies.
Alam naman natin walang serial killer dito sa Pilipinas.
How long did it take to shoot the film?
20 days. We shot it in 20 days.
More or less than you would have thought?
Yeah, we really wanted to do it in 20 days.
How long did it take to produce? Or how long was post-production?
Post-production was long. Post-production was several months, more than 6. We took our time.
You were associate producer in General Luna.
That's correct.
What was the difference between working based on a historical figure as opposed to working based on a novel or a book?
Interestingly enough, on General Luna, I had to do quite a bit of research. We did have a sort of a definitive biography, The Rise and Fall of General Antonio Luna by Dr. Vivencio Jose. We had that as a guide. So when you're doing a historical film, obviously you have to make sure that it's true to history, right?
More or less.
Yeah, more or less. Well, we really tried with General Luna, and I think it's almost all in the biography. When you're doing fiction, you know, there's a little more wiggle room, I guess you could call it, but you also want to stay true to the spirit of the book, and I think, you know, we really tried to do that because we both love the book so much. So you've both been in the film industry for 10-20 years at least. Him longer than me, actually.
Let me ask you guys, best movie
of all time?
Ever.
Filipino?
Yeah.
My personal favorite is Manila by Night by Ishmael Bernal. I think he's one of the best directors. Although I'm the hugest fan of Mike De Leon, I really think that Manila by Night captures the soul of being a Filipino in a very Filipino way. You know, it's not a melodrama in the classic sense, in the Lino Brocka sense. It's very Ishmael Bernal in. It's a comedy, it's drama, it's genre bending, and for me, it's
also
it's
a huge cast.
Do you have,
with
do you have a favorite movie, local or foreign?
Oh, I do. I didn't go to film school, so I'm very much, I love Mike De Leon's Baguio romance from the 1970s called Kung Mangarap Ka't Magising. And it's a very young Christopher De Leon and a very young and beautiful Hilda Coronel. And it's you know, I mean, of course, Mike De Leon is a master, and he's directed other films that people might consider more hefty.
And he's coming back out. He's coming out again now.
Yes, we're
with what he says will be his last movie again.
Came out of retirement, and super excited to see that film as well.
Could you both tell me what movie made you fall in love with movies?
Wow. You first.
Local, foreign.
Either.
I have the oldest memory of watching at home a copy of Akira Kurosawa's Dreams. So I think I was 5 years old then, and for a kid to be watching dreamlike images of I don't know, like a volcano erupting like a painting. It's magical. Although I've been making like weird art house experimental films before, but also when I was young, I remember going to the cinema and watching this Filipino comedy called Wooly Bully, starring Jimmy Santos, which is like a basketball sci-fi movie.
Wow, as only Jimmy Santos can star in.
Yeah. So that was also a great memory, because you kind of realize like how Filipinos are very, very imaginative. You can bring stories to, you know, like different directions and still make sense.
So one day we will say that the germ of your storied career will be Wooly Bully. Ria, let me end by asking you, what do you like most about being in this industry?
I love working with really interesting people, you know, artists like Raya and Moira, and, you know, actors. But then also you have people who are working behind the camera, like production designers and location managers and costume designers, and everybody really has their own, you know, input. So it's that collaboration with all these varied, you know, types of people that for me makes it interesting.
Varied people who are also all more temperamental than average.
Well, yeah, no, some of them are quite, you know, steady. Some of them are nutcases. But I enjoy crazy people. It's fun.
Raya, thank you very much for coming to Rappler.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.